everyone. We are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Dr. Matt Buch, a doctor of physical therapy, board-certified orthopedic specialist, and the owner of Total Pursuit Physical Therapy and Performance based out of De Pere, Wisconsin. Dr. Matt works with active people of all kinds, from athletes who love to train hard to parents who simply want to run around with their kids without dealing with constant aches and pains. But what really sets him apart is his belief that pain isn't something you just live with. So if you've ever been told to rest more, stretch more, or chalk it up to getting older, he is really passionate about challenging that mindset. His approach focuses on uncovering the root cause so that you can move better and feel stronger for the long haul. Dr. Matt creates customized treatment plans that often combine hands-on techniques like dry needling, cupping, and joint manipulation with strength training, movement coaching, and realistic habit shifts that actually fit your life. It's not just about getting you out of pain, it's about keeping you active long-term. And outside the clinic, he's an avid bow hunter, climber, outdoor enthusiast, husband, and dad to 2 young boys, so he truly understands the value of being able to move well and keep up with the life that you love.
Welcome back, Dr. Matt.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
We had a really interesting episode with you in this last one. So this is our second episode with you. We're going to be talking about bulletproofing your knees, your back, just making sure that you're doing the right things when you're moving your body. And I think that this is going to be really insightful. If you guys haven't listened to the first episode with Dr. Matt, we talked a lot about his story. We also talked a lot about how stretching and rest aren't necessarily the best ways of going about taking care of. Obviously, doing it initially is great, but that's not long term. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely listen to that first episode. But in this episode, knees and back, why are those 2 areas such a huge problem for so many people, whether they're super active or, not so much?
Yeah. So 2 very common things that we see in the clinic. I'll start with the knee. And one thing that I think is really important to know about knees and why they can become such an issue is because knees are kind of dumb. They don't. What I mean by that is they don't make a lot of decisions for themselves. Okay, so they are heavily influenced by other areas of the body. So, for example, the knee basically straightens and bends. That's all it does. Okay. If we really want to get into the weeds, there's a little bit of twist in there, but for our purposes, it straightens and it bends. The 2 joints that the knee is influenced by, the hip and the ankle on each side of the knee, they straighten, bend, they rotate, they twist around, they go out to the side. There's way more movement and way more things that can go awry in those 2 joints. And usually what happens is anytime there's a problem in either of those other 2 joints, the knee is going to take the brunt of that force. So that's the main reason why the knee is such a common problem child for so many people. The back, let's specifically talk about the low back, because I think low back pain is super common in our culture and in the population that we see. Really same thing. The low back, it bends forward, it bends back. It does a little bit of rotation and side bending, but not a ton. Most of your other movements are coming, again, from your hips, and then even up from your upper back, your shoulders, your neck, everything else. So if you're doing full body movements, let's say like a HIIT class or like a boot camp style class, and some of these other areas in your bodies, your hips aren't rotating properly to get down into a squat, your shoulders don't have enough mobility to get a weight up overhead. Usually your low back is what's going to default and compensate for the lack of ability in these other parts of your body, which means that your low back is going to become way overused or more than what its capacity is able to tolerate. And therefore, we're going to end up with some low back issues.
So if a lot of people who especially are active, right, if they're having knee or back pain, should they stop doing those lunges and squats? What should they do if they're feeling that pain in those areas?
It really depends. I think if it's something that is, acute injury, and what I mean by that is something that's happened yesterday, a couple days ago, and they're still just really recovering from, an injury that just occurred. Yeah, absolutely. Resting, just kind of letting your body calm down. If there's any swelling involved, letting that calm down. Definitely going to be step number 1. If this is something that's been going on for more than a week or 2, then rest at this point is really not going to do a whole lot of good usually. Unfortunately, a lot of times people will start to avoid certain movements, like squats, lunges, things like that. And avoidance will generally just, make things worse over time, because in order to reduce the amount of sensitivity in our tissues, we actually need to use those tissues in those movements to allow your body to adapt to that and allow your brain to realize that, okay, this isn't necessarily a dangerous thing. So when we don't exercise that, all of a sudden those tissues become more sensitive. And then you go back, try and do squats or lunges, let's say a month later, and it hurts even worse. And you're like, crap, so better stop doing that again. And then, 2 or 3 months later, you're like, all right, well, it's been enough time. Let's try it again. Well, that sensitivity has just continued to heighten. And now all of a sudden your body is really sending these pain signals when it doesn't need to be.
We're always squatting. We're lunging in different ways, whether that's to the sides or to the front. Maybe not exactly what you would do in a HIIT class or a, strength workout, but it's still, those are natural movements. And if you're not doing that with weight in a gym or strengthening somehow, it's not going to go well in real life.
Absolutely. I think that brings up another really good point is you need to train your body into the types of positions, movements, whatever it is that you're actually going to be using your body in real life. So for example, have you guys ever heard don't let your knees come past your toes when you squat?
Yeah, that used to be a really big thing, and I know it's not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It might still be a good rule if you are doing a barbell squat with a lot of weight and you're doing, an Olympic style lift that's very form regimented. Probably a good idea to keep that good form. But if you're chasing your kids around the yard, if you're backpedaling, if you're jumping up onto a box during a HIIT workout, your knees are coming past your toes all the time. And so it doesn't really do you a lot of good to only train in that, quote unquote, perfect form, when in real life, you're going to be in all of these other types of positions. So what's really important for us is to figure out, okay, what movements, what positions is your body not tolerating? And then how do we systematically build up that tolerance to allow you to do the things that would normally cause pain?
Yeah, so that's a really good point. And okay, so I'd love to get some tangible things that people can start doing in their homes. So let's just say that they've experienced lower back or knee pain on and off, and they're just like, I feel like I'm just weak. I'm weak. And so what should people be working on strengthening to make sure that the muscles around those areas are ready to handle the load that a regular workout or even everyday life would bring?
Totally. So let's take the back, for example. Common things that people will think about when, okay, my back hurts, I need to start to build up strength is going to be core strength, right? Which is totally correct. You want to build up core strength. You want to build up good back strength. So starting, depending on where they're at in terms of their fitness level, they need to start at a place that's going to be appropriate for them. So a lot of times I think people get themselves into trouble. They look up on YouTube core exercises for low back pain. And that exercise may not match what their physical ability level is. It may not match the area that's actually weak for them. So what I would tell people if they are looking to start to build up that strength at home is you want to start very low level and then just systematically build your tolerance up until you get to a point where you're feeling a little bit of your symptoms. So let's say we're talking about low back pain again, 3 to 4 out of 10, and then work that exercise that kind of elicits those symptoms just a little bit. Over the course of time, what you'll find is that the more you do that, all of a sudden those pain levels start to come back down. And then a certain exercise, let's say a dead bug, for example, you're laying on your back, you're kind of straightening one leg, one arm, back and forth. Maybe that used to cause a 4 out of 10 pain, what I would call just a moderate discomfort. Now all of a sudden is pretty much pain free. Cool. Now we want to advance that along again. And you just kind of keep pushing your body's tolerance a little bit. So complete pain avoidance is usually not going to be enough to change the way your body perceives pain and actually build up that pain tolerance. But also completely blowing through it and saying, all right, screw this. I'm just gonna go for it. That's not quite right either. So we got to find our what I would call like our Goldilocks parameters. We want to be just right. Same thing goes for the knee. If you find that squats or lunges cause a lot of knee pain, maybe what we need to do is just start with a quarter squat or a quarter lunge. Do that for a week or two. Once that pain level comes down, just continue to progress the depth. Where we come in is we're going to dive into, some of these other things like we talked about the hip, the ankle. If we're talking about the knee, figure out, what's not moving correctly, what's weak, what we need to build up in order to prevent that stress from being pushed onto the knee, and then do that all at the same time. Same thing with the back. Figure out, okay, is it a shoulder issue that, your shoulders aren't strong enough, they're not mobile enough, so your back is, taking the brunt of the force every time you lift something overhead. Whatever it is, we want to figure out how do we address those things as well, so that along with just building up the tolerance at the area specifically, now we're taking a full body approach and really bulletproofing yourself.
Yeah, which I think is a really good point, because as much as people don't want to take the time or spend the money, like seeing somebody like you or even a personal trainer for just form evaluation would be really good, because if also at the same time, if you don't know how to do a workout or your form is poor, you could just keep re-injuring yourself. And then having somebody like you be able to pinpoint those weak areas that could use strengthening or stretching, that's going to be really key. I do want to talk a little bit about some high impact sports though, because things like CrossFit, things like HIIT workouts, things like running, especially Dre. So background, I don't know if you really know this, Dr. Matt, but Dre and I are personal trainers. So our whole background over the last 12 years has been prenatal and postpartum personal training. And so we do have a background in this as well. And so with the women that we've really worked with in the past, and women as a whole in society puts a lot of pressure on us to like be able to do the things that we did pre-pregnancy or jump back in and be able to perform at the same level that we did before. And so I think a lot of women, or even just look how we did before. And so a lot of women are turning to things like high intensity boot camps, CrossFit, maybe it's at home HIIT workouts, maybe it's running, and they're jumping back into these things before their body is really ready. But some of these are different. So I'd love for you to just kind of walk through, if somebody is interested in getting involved in, let's just take specifically like CrossFit and HIIT, because we're going to have a whole episode on running. Mm-hmm. What are some things that they should make sure that they're doing first before they're jumping into those workouts? How do they make sure that they're ready?
Totally. So the first thing that they want to do, let's take CrossFit specifically. If they've never done it before, you definitely need to find a CrossFit coach. Every CrossFit gym in town has coaches that are all certified, and you want to do a proper onboarding where they're going to teach you the movement patterns. They're going to teach you how to do the different types of lifts that you're going to be doing during a class. That's priority number one, because first of all, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to effectively do the movements safely without bad form that's going to potentially cause a totally different injury. The other thing that is really important, especially thinking of postpartum women, is really taking a long graded approach to get back into this. So I know and I'm sure you guys have experienced this, it's you want to get back to your pre-pregnancy fitness status as quickly as possible, right? Because you're like, man, I've done that. Like, I know that I can do it, but we do just need to give the body time to heal. We need to give the tissues the proper amount of time that they need to build that tolerance back up again. So I think just really being, graceful with yourself about just taking the time that's necessary for your body to actually heal and then adapt to getting back into those movement patterns and those workouts is going to be super important as well.
What about let's talk about warm-ups for these areas of the body, as well as like recovery. So knowing that these are areas that, especially people who are just getting back into fitness, they can be more injury prone. How much time do you typically spend on warming up these areas? Give us a couple specific exercises to be doing, and then let's talk about recovery too.
Yeah. So warming up is like every athlete's least favorite thing to do. We'll start with that, but it's the most important thing. So when we say warm up, you should literally be warming up your entire body. Like, you should be sweating by the time you're done with your warm up. Okay. It's not a couple quick like shoulder circles, a pigeon stretch, and then we're good to go. This should be a relatively good amount of time that you're getting the blood flow going through your body. You're elevating your heart rate. You're breaking a sweat. Your tissues are prepared to do this high level activity. So if we're thinking about the knee, for example, we want to really make sure that our hips are as warm as they can be. So doing some banded, side steps, some monster walks, doing some walking lunges, maybe some resisted hip rotations, just to really get all of these muscles to fire on all cylinders and really get the blood pumping into these muscles that are going to support your knees as you're going into lunges, squats, things like that. Same thing with the ankle, going through some double leg calf raises, single leg calf raises, some little ankle hops, just getting those light plyometric drills in to not only elevate the heart rate, but also get, your calves, your Achilles tendon, all of these other tissues ready to actually take on load, get the blood flowing in there so that they're as safe as possible once you do actually start adding on weight or increasing speed, intensity, things like that, if we're talking about more of a boot camp type workout. And then same thing with the upper back, make sure that, or excuse me, the lower back, make sure that your shoulders are really warm so that if you're doing any type of an overhead movement, you're not compensating with that lack of mobility in your shoulders by overarching your back and then placing all that stress through your low back, making sure that your upper back muscles are ready to take on the load that you're doing. So really just getting all of the supporting structures around these areas very, very warm. Like I said, you should be breathing heavy, your heart rate should be up, and you should be sweating by the time you're done with your warm up.
Dre and I have taught a lot of group fitness in the past. Just kind of a simple way to think about it is basically do your workout, but maybe with no weights. Like do it like just going through the motions that you're about to go through, just with no weights and maybe in a little bit slower, like especially if you're going to do high impact, like do it in a low impact form. As well as I feel like with the lower back, a lot of people don't typically think about those being worked. But if you're doing like a deadlift, people think, oh, this is for my hamstrings and my glutes. It is so much your lower back too. And so they don't necessarily think about warming up their low back like they would one of the arm or leg muscles. And so it is like going through the motions of what you're about to do might be really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even, thinking about a deadlift, like just taking an empty barbell, doing some good mornings or doing them with a band, going through some Jefferson curls with lightweight where you're just getting your back to fully arch and then fully extend, going through that full range of motion just to get those muscles working through their entire motion is going to bring a lot of blood flow into the muscles, which is going to help prime them to be ready to accept that load. And it's also going to get your nervous system ready to engage these muscles when it's necessary to protect your body with that good form.
What are some good rules of thumb for recovery? If somebody's doing low impact stuff, 24 to 48 hours, I think is kind of a good and common rule. But specifically with these high impact, like with CrossFit or with HIIT type workouts where a lot of them are full body. How are you working recovery? How many workouts a week is kind of appropriate? Walk us through your thoughts on that.
I want to start off by saying that everybody's going to be a little bit different. It's going to completely depend on the person, what their fitness level is, what their load tolerance is, all of that stuff. So let's say we're talking about a high impact CrossFit style workout where we're doing, full body. Generally speaking, you want to allow, 48 hours of recovery between hitting these major muscle groups again. The nice thing about these types of workouts is generally you can do them 5 days a week as long as your body has the tolerance if you're varying the stimulus and varying the lift that you're doing. So for example, I wouldn't recommend, throwing 80% 1 rep max deadlifts into your workout 5 days a week. Back's not going to like you very much by the time you get to the end of the week. But, let's say you do a deadlift on Monday, maybe you're doing more of a different type of Olympic movement the next day. Maybe you're doing more, dumbbell type stuff Wednesday, and you're just varying that stimulus. So it's definitely possible to work out 5 days a week, 6 days a week. I don't really ever recommend anybody works out 7 days a week because I think you at least need a day of recovery to just allow your body to reset. But once again, it's all about, have you built up that tissue tolerance and that load tolerance? So if somebody who's just getting into fitness or just getting into a workout regimen, I would not recommend that they jump in 5 days a week, because their system's gonna be a little bit shocked, and they're not gonna be feeling too great. So it's a matter of building that tolerance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. One last question for this episode that I think a lot of people are oftentimes wondering: if they are sore from a workout, what are your hot tips for recovering from soreness the fastest?
Absolutely. So nutrition's gonna be huge. What's the adage? Muscle is torn down in the gym and it's rebuilt in the kitchen. So nutrition, making sure that you're getting enough protein for your goals, making sure that you're staying hydrated. Hydration is huge in terms of muscle recovery. Sleep hygiene is massive. Most of us don't get enough sleep, at least as much as we probably should, but sleep is a big factor as well. So nutrition, sleep, hydration, those are the biggest components of adequate recovery. Other things like sauna can be a awesome adjunct to it. Heat, ice. I'm not big on ice unless it's an acute injury where you're dealing with swelling. Some people have different opinions on that.
What about
just
ice
mine.
baths? Like, right?
It depends on what your goals are. So if your goal is to, build muscle or hypertrophy, there's some evidence out there that says that, doing an ice bath post workout might not be the best option for that, because it's going to significantly inhibit that stimulus after the workout. That might be one thing to stay away from. If you want to do an ice bath in the morning, 24 to 48 hours after that workout, that can be totally appropriate. It helps with energizing the body, waking things up. It can help with any areas of your body that might be a little bit inflamed, just kind of toning down that inflammation a little bit. That wouldn't really be a problem at all.
All right. Any other tips for recovery before we close this one out?
I think the biggest thing, honestly, is just listen to your body. Most people know their bodies better than any health professional that they're going to talk to. And even in my clientele, like, it's amazing what I can learn just by asking the right questions, and people will start to really just kind of tell me everything that's going on that we need to figure out. You are very in tune with your body. Listen to it. The amount of soreness you're feeling, the fatigue that you're feeling, all of those things are just going to be some cues that, maybe you need a little bit of extra rest. Or if you're at the point where your body's feeling pretty good, you're feeling ready to go, that's a good indication that you can keep pushing a little bit.
Thanks for sharing your tips for knees and low back, because I think there's a lot of people out there that struggle with this. So that's really helpful. Are you on social media at all? Where could people follow you?
We are on social media. The Instagram handle is totalpursuit.greenbay. So you can follow for recovery tips, injury prevention tips. We try and put out a lot of stuff on there as well.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing this. We do have 2 more episodes coming up. We are going to be talking about running, and you may think a lot of it is similar to what we just talked about, but there's so much to talk about running. So I'm excited that we're going to have an entire episode dedicated to that. And then in our last episode, we're going to be talking about dry needling, and I think that'll be really insightful. I'm excited to be able to ask you some questions because I've had it done myself, but I still don't understand the full science behind it. And so let's get nerdy in that episode. I'm really excited about that.
Looking forward to it.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.